The medical bay of the Galactic Alliance station hummed with its usual sterile efficiency when the emergency alert pierced through the afternoon shift. Dr. John Martinez looked up from his datapad, his human eyes widening at the species classification flashing across the screen. Draconis majestus. A dragon? Ava Chen, his medical assistant, appeared at his shoulder. I thought they never got sick. Apparently, this one did. John was already moving toward the receiving dock, his mind racing through the limited information Earth's medical database had on dragons, proud, ancient, notoriously, difficult to treat because they refused to show weakness, the creature that limped through the doors, shattered every preconception. She was magnificent even in distress, scales the color of twilight, wings folded tight against her massive frame, but her eyes were watery. Her nostrils dripped with an iridescent fluid, and she sneezed with enough force to rattle the medical instruments on their trays. I am Achoo. Ambassador Xereth of the Flame Reaches, she announced, her voice hoarse and lacking its usual draconic resonance. I require minimal assistance. Perhaps just Achoo, some fire suppressant medication. John approached slowly, hands visible and non-threatening. Most doctors would have immediately started scanning, poking, treating the dragon as a fascinating alien specimen. But John had learned something during his years in space that other species often forgot. Dignity mattered more than efficiency. Ambassador Xereth, he said gently. I'm Dr. Martinez. That sounds like a nasty cold you've got there. Would you like to sit down? The dragon blinked her watery eyes. Sitting down? Yes. John gestured to the reinforced medical platform they used for larger species. You look exhausted. When's the last time you rested? Xereth hesitated. In draconic culture, showing weakness was unthinkable. But the human wasn't treating her like a specimen or a mighty dragon. He was treating her like someone who felt terrible. 3 cycles. The diplomatic summit cannot proceed without Achoo! The summit can wait. John's tone was firm but kind. Ava, could you please bring some warm water in the humidifier? And maybe those honey supplements from Earth? Ava nodded, understanding immediately. She'd watched John work long enough to recognize his approach, treat the person, not the species. Over the next hour, something unprecedented happened in the medical bay. John didn't just scan Xereth and prescribe medication. He pulled up a chair, a human gesture that put him at eye level with the dragon's lowered head. He explained everything he was doing in a calm, reassuring voice. Your mucous membranes are inflamed, he said, showing her the scan results. It's basically a respiratory infection. Your fire glands are overcompensating, which is making you feel worse. We'll give you something to reduce the inflammation, but honestly, you need rest fluids and time. I do not have time, Xereth protested weakly. The Vraxian delegation will survive without you for a few days. John stood and draped a thermal blanket over her wings. The gesture was so unexpected, so tender that Xereth fell silent. You know what humans do when we have a cold? The dragon shook her head, then immediately regretted it as her sinuses throbbed. We make tea. We watch bad entertainment vids. We rest, he smiled. I can't prescribe fire breathing or centuries of genetic superiority, Ambassador, but I can prescribe soup fluids and a good nap. Ava returned with a humidifier that began filling the air with warm, soothing mist. She also brought a large bowl of steaming broth infused with nutrients suitable for draconic biology, but presented like human chicken soup. This is... Xereth inhaled the fragrant steam, her congested sinuses clearing slightly. This is not standard medical protocol. No, John agreed, pulling out his personal tablet. But this is. He showed her a collection of Earth's most ridiculous comedy shows. Laughter helps the immune system. Humans have known that for centuries. For the first time in 3 miserable days, Ambassador Xereth felt something other than stubbornness keeping her upright. She felt cared for. Over the next 72 hours, the medical bay became something unprecedented. John checked on Xereth every few hours, but never with the clinical detachment other species used. He brought her more soup. He adjusted the temperature to her comfort. He sat with her during the worst of her fever, telling her stories about Earth. Not because she needed distraction, but because she seemed lonely. Ava watched her mentor work with quiet admiration. You know the Galactic Medical Council would say you're being inefficient, she mentioned during one of their breaks. Probably. John didn't look up from preparing another batch of medicated tea. But they're not the ones who are sick and scared and far from home. Scared? She's a dragon. She's a person who feels terrible and doesn't want to show weakness. John met Ava's eyes. Every species in this galaxy has forgotten something humans remember. Medicine isn't just about curing the body. It's about caring for the whole being. By the fourth day, Xyrith's cold had broken. Her scales gleamed with renewed luster. Her eyes were clear and her voice had regained its resonant power. But when John came to discharge her, he found the mighty dragon crying. "Ambassador?" He rushed forward, concerned. "Are you in pain?" "No," Xyrith said, her voice thick with emotion. I have lived 700 years, Dr. Martinez. I have been treated by the finest physicians across 100 worlds, but none of them." She looked at him with eyes that held ancient wisdom and present vulnerability. "None of them treated me with such kindness." John felt his own throat tighten. "You deserved kindness. Everyone does, especially when they're sick." What happened next became legend throughout the Galactic Alliance. Ambassador Xyrith, one of the most powerful diplomats in known space, requested that Earth's medical practices be studied and integrated into galactic healthcare. She cited the Martinez Protocol, treating patients with dignity, compassion, and recognition of their personhood regardless of species. The request sparked a revolution in alien medicine. Suddenly, other species were questioning their clinical detachment. Comfort care became standard. Bedside manner mattered. And in the medical bay of the station, John continued his work, unaware that treating a dragon's cold with human compassion had changed the galaxy forever. "You know," Ava said one day, months later, "you're famous now. They're teaching the Martinez Protocol at medical schools across 50 systems." John looked up from his current patient, a Vraxian with a sprained tentacle, and smiled. "Good. Maybe now everyone will remember what should have been obvious all along." "What's that?" "That kindness," he said simply, "is universal. And somewhere in the flame reaches, a dragon smiled and remembered the human doctor who had given her soup.